Okay, Chapter 3, Lessons 1 and 2. This is estimating and rounding with decimals. This is a really important lesson. A lot of your EOG towards the end of the year likes to have problems with decimals, and it's a lot easier to eliminate answer choices when you know these techniques that I'm about to show you. So make sure you're taking good notes today. First off, let's talk about place value. I've written up here 43.4715, a very big decimal number. And I've listed out the decimal or the place values. So with the 4 here, that's in the tenths place, or in the tens place, excuse me. The 3 is in the ones place. This 4 is in the tenths place. 7 is in the hundredths place. 1 is in the thousandths place. And 5 is in the 10,000ths place. Notice how all the place values after the decimal have a "this" at the end of them. Make sure you know your place values because I'm going to be using those words a lot throughout this lesson. So let's go ahead and jump into rounding. Remember your rounding rule. If it's 5 or more, you want to round the next number up. If it is 4 or less, you drop the rest. So what I mean by 4 or less is you drop the rest of the values that I'm talking about and keep that value at the same spot. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to round 57.213 to the nearest tenth. I've highlighted the tenth value, place value, right here in red, so 57.213. And what we do to round is we want to round to the nearest tenth. So we use the value after the tenths place, the hundredths place, to determine where we're going to round to. So we're looking at this number right here, a 1. 4 or less, drop the rest. So because it's a 1, we're going to drop the 1 and 3 and keep the 2 just where it is. So rounding to the tenths place, 57.2 or 57 and 2 tenths would be my answer. Notice how my answer after rounding, the last place value matches what I asked for. Round to the nearest tenth, 57 and 2 tenths. Let's look at another example. So say we have round 9.851 to the nearest ones place. So 9 is in the ones place. We use the place value right after that to determine where we're rounding to. So we have an 8. That's bigger than 5, so we need to push the ones place up by 1. So that becomes a 10. Notice the ones place. Ones is the last place value in our answer. Look at 3. We're rounding to the tenths place. And we're going to round 5.091 to the tenths place. 0 is in the tenths place. So we're using the number after that to figure out where we're going to round 0 to. It's a 9. So since that's bigger than 5, we're going to take the tenths place and go up by 1. So now we have 5.1 or 5 and 1 tenths. We rounded to the tenths. The last place value is a tenths. Now let's drop rounding. Okay, forget about that for a second. And let's use estimation techniques. Okay, it's not the same as rounding. This is estimating. Okay, kind of trying to get close to the answer without having to use a calculator, trying to make it as easy as possible. So our first estimation technique is called front-end estimation. You do need to know these techniques, so make sure you write down front-end estimation. Okay, this is great for like grocery shopping. Okay, when you're shopping in general, you've probably used front-end estimation without even realizing it. So say we have a bunch of items, and they're just some mystery items. We're 291, 147, 621, and 789. Okay, we're adding up all of those decimal values. What we do in front-end estimation is we take the value that's in the front of each one of these numbers. So basically all the values in the ones place. 2, 1, 6, and 7. And we add those up first. 2 plus 1 plus 6 plus 7 is $16. Then what we're going to do is take the end values. Okay, and we're going to actually use our rounding techniques here to round those to what they're about. So the end values of this one are 91 cents. So I said that's about 90 cents. 47 cents rounds to 50 cents. 21 cents, 20 cents. 89 cents, 90 cents. And now let's add up all the change. And that becomes $2.50. So let's take our front, $16, our end, $2.50, $18.50 would be a good estimate for this grocery list of items that we have. So we're using the front and the end to create our estimate. Now another estimation technique is called clustering. It's one of my favorites because it's really not that hard. Okay. It's very useful when all of the numbers you're adding or subtracting kind of hover around or cluster around the same value. So take a look. We got 9.57, 9.22, 9.88, 10.21, 10.05. They are all really, really close to 10. So let's just round each one of them to 10. Now we're not using a rounding rule. Okay, we're just using a clustering. Okay, we're saying that they're all clustered around 10. So let's just make sure they're all 10. So 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 50. So I know that when I add up these numbers and I want an actual value, it should be close to 50. 50 is a good estimate of what that final answer could be. Finally, the last estimation technique is compatible numbers. Notice how it says here, it's only for multiplying and dividing. You do not use compatible numbers when you're adding two decimals together or subtracting two decimals together. This is only for multiplying and dividing. Think of compatible numbers as kind of like replacement numbers. Okay? They're numbers that are easier to work with. Okay? You replace the numbers you're multiplying or dividing with just easy numbers. Okay? It's to make the problem easy. So let's say we're doing 48.924 times 7.83. Okay, that's a yucky problem. That's a lot of work to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with an easier number. Replace this one with an easier number. We're not rounding. We're just replacing it with a number that's close by to make it easy to multiply. So I said 48.924, that's close to 50. So I said 50, that's an easy number to multiply. 7.83, that's really close to 8. So 50 times 8 is a much easier version of this problem using estimation. And that's 400. So I know that when I multiply these actually, it should be fairly close to 400. Once again, when I'm using dividing, remember, we want to make the problem easier. So we're not going to replace our two numbers with numbers that will leave remainders and decimals and stuff like that. We don't want that stuff. We just want a nice, easy answer. So if I have 41.93 divided by 6.22, I said 41.93, that's really close to 42. And 6.22 is really close to 6. So 42 divided by 6, that's not going to leave me with any remainders. That's 7. Okay, so a good estimate of when I actually divide that will be 7. Okay, it'll be really close by. So these are the 3 estimation techniques that you need to know for your next quizzes and tests. And it'll be helpful on the EOG. We've got your front-end estimation, we've got clustering, and we've got compatible numbers. Okay, remember, front-end estimation and clustering is for adding and subtracting. Compatible numbers is for multiplying and dividing. All right, I'm Mr. Bohork. See you tomorrow.